East Island, a lonely island in the South Pacific Ocean, far from continents and other islands. A flight from the capital of Chile, Santiago, takes more than 5 hours. The island is most famous for its mysterious moai statues. The plane landed at the only airport of the island. This place is bright, shining, warm, and a little humid, much like Hawaii. The local people call this island, as well as themselves, Rapa Nui. The only reason the outsiders call this island Easter Island is because the Dutch discovered this island on the Easter Day of 1722. So this name itself has some colonialism color. The locals don't like that. The shape of the island is a little like an isosceles triangle. The first place we went is on the north side of the island, a place called Anakina Beach. It's a little odd that although this island is surrounded by the ocean, Anakina is the only beach on the island that people can swim. Here, for the first time, we saw moai statues. Huge statues stood in a line. The red hair dresses this moai wear contrasted strikingly with the blue bright sky. These red headgears themselves are made of stone, huge red stones. The local people call them pukao. The stone that pukao was made of is from a different place of the island from the stone that the moai is made of. So at that time, how did the islanders move these stones from different places of the island to here and set them up and put that huge pukao on top of the moai statues? To the eyes of modern people, this is a mystery that is hard to understand. Up a hill, not too far away, there is a single statue. It is said to commemorate then chief of the tribe, Hutu Matua. Legend has it that he led the Polynesians landed on this island from this beach and established the first tribe on the island. Of course, afterwards, many tribes came and each tribe had their own set of moai statues. The place we are going to see next is called Ahu Akivi. Here is another set of moai statues from another tribe. As you can see, these moais no longer have pukaos, those red headgears, and the corrosion looks more severe. The uniqueness of this set of moais are that all the rest of the moais on the island are back to the ocean and face inside towards the island, the center of the island, while these 7 moais stand facing the ocean and look up into the sky. Are there any special meaning for this kind of a positioning and gesture? Back to hotel. It's getting dark. The light of the modern civilization still can dissipate the thick fog of the history. The next morning, we set off before dawn. We are going to Ahu Tongariki because there is the most beautiful sunrise on the island. When we arrived, the place was still dark. 15 moai statues lined up in a row, standing silently in the darkness. The only can be discerned are their silhouettes. They have varying sizes and heights. According to the Polynesian legend, these are all the deceased elders, so it's understandable they have different sizes. The sky is getting brighter and brighter. The sun that had not yet appeared had already lit up the clouds afar. The morning glow grew ever more radiant. Slowly, the seascape came into view, its vivid hues faintly unfolding in the soft morning light. This was the fleeting moment before sunrise, when the sky seemed to surge with the molten fire, like lava stirring in heavens. The sun rose, its golden light wrapping around these nameless statues. So many stories have faded into dust, and yet what seems eternal is this sun that rises every morning. What we see now is the landscape these 15 statues face, some scattering moai pieces, and the quarry in the distance, all shrouded in the golden sunlight. This quarry was where the moai were carved, and that's where we are going to look next. Before leaving, let's take a look back to the whole picture of this Ahu Tongariki. This is the quarry we are going to next, Ranu Raraku. On Google Map, this place is marked as Moai Tongkuturi, which means a kneading moai. This actually is one of the many moais in this quarry, albeit a special one. So to me, Google Maps still have some homework to do. Some geologic warm-ups first. There are mainly 4 kinds of rocks on the island. Volcanic tuff is the most common. Most of the moai statues we saw are made of tuff. Red scoria is that red rock that's used to make pukao, the red hair dress that we saw in Anakina Beach. Trichyte we didn't see this time on the island. Basalt is the hardest type. Different kind of rocks give moai statues different appearance. Tuff is a little soft, so the statues made from it can appear a little rough and porous. Basalt, on the other hand, can produce the most detailed and the finest figure. There is one moai statue made of basalt that is on display at the British Museum. It is very exquisite. Its story we are going to talk about later. These different kinds of rocks can be found at the different places of the island. Tuff is mainly in Ranu Raraku, the place we are going now. Red scoria is in another place that we are also going to visit later. When we walked into the quarry, we can see a lot of moai statues scattered around. They are all buried to some extent, some to the chest, some to the mouth, and some to the nose. Remind you that when they were made, these were all busts with a long upper torso. So a big portion has been buried in the ground, from which you can tell how long time it has been. This quarry provided the most statues to the island. More than 95% of the moai statues on the island are from here. Until now, there are still 887 pieces remaining in this quarry. So you can tell how large the production scale was at that time. From the way these remaining statues are scattered, it seems this whole production and transportation were suddenly stopped, and these statues were abandoned at various stages of production and transportation. So what exactly caused such a abrupt tide change? Is that a war or famine, or making of such statues was suddenly out of fashion, or some engineering difficulties? Nobody knows, because there is no understandable script left on the island. The local script is called Rongo Rongo. There are only few pieces left, and worse, nobody can translate those scripts. Despite all these obscurities, Because these statues were at the various stages of carving, they provide a valuable insights of how these moai statues were made. A good example is this statue. People can see how it was separated from the mountain and hollowed out underneath. This statue is huge. It was estimated to be more than 20 meters long and more than 270 tons in weight. So maybe this is exactly why this production was abandoned, because each tribe was involved in a competition to make the statue bigger and bigger. It reached the point that even though they could carve it and separate it from the mountain, they could not transport it. There is one statue that is different from the rest. That is the kneeling moai that was marked on the Google map. After looking at statues in the quarry as well as at the other parts of the island, it's easy to get the impression that these moai statues, their features closely resemble each other. They all look alike. Maybe Rapa Nui people just look similar, like my local guides. They look like twins. But there is also another possibility that their artistic expression is more limited. So the statues they carved out all look similar. This is where the uniqueness of this kneeling moai came from. First of all, it is a whole body statue, while the others are half body ones. Secondly, its expression, including the posture and its beard, give a richer presentation. In other words, it's more human-like. Then this leads to an interesting question. If this statue is more human-like and the others are less human-like, then are the other moais representing a somewhat different kind of human beings? From the top of the quarry, we can see oceans in the distance and the place where we saw sunrise, Ahu Tongariki. On our way from the quarry, we saw free-range cattle and horses roaming and gazing freely. A very pleasant, peaceful pastoral scene. The next place we visited is, to me, the most shocking place. It's called Vinapu. Here, moais are mostly disintegrated, but what interested us the most is actually their base, so-called Ahu. Ahu is the place where the moai statues stand. You can see the back of this Ahu are spliced together by big stones, and these stones were cut not all in the straight line. Some are with arc, some are slanted, but all very tightly stacked together. And even more amazing is this small piece of stone, which itself is irregularly shaped. It is tightly embedded between large stones. So it gives us the impression, at least give me the impression, that at the time they were built, this doesn't look like they were cut and then put together. They were more likely being squeezed together, like some softer material, like some mud squeezed together. Remind you that these are basalt, the hardest rock on the island. And at that time, the island was at the Stone Age, meaning they didn't have harder tools to process these rocks. So how was it possible that these people can make such a perfect alignment to piece together of these hardest stones of the island? The way this Ahu was built had some resemblance to the walls in Inca of Peru. So at a certain point, the Peruvian government claims that Rapa Nui had Peruvian civilization influence. Maybe, but on the island there was no other indication of Peruvian civilization. Besides, the wars in Inca also was hard to explain. So the sheer factor that these two places are separated by vast body of water that was hard to traverse during that time, but had a similar construction, give rise to a speculation that maybe there is a civilization that we don't know that made constructions in these two places. Also puzzling is a place called the Punapor. That's where the red scoria came from. You can see there are some stones that have already been processed into cylinders. These stones were chiseled out from the crater, and then local islanders needed to pull them out and transport them all the way from the south part of the island where this crater is to the northern part of the island where we saw the pukao in Anakina Beach. The pukao was relatively easier to transport because they could be rolled, but still that was a daunting task, to say the least. At dusk, we came to Ahu Tahai. It is on the west side of the island, a perfect place to watch the sunset. There are several moais in this place. One of them has eyes on it. If you remember, the moais that we saw in the quarry, their eye slots were actually not carved out yet. Those eye slots would be carved out only after they were transported to the place and set up on the Ahu, and only during the sacrifice ceremony would local people put eyes on them. Those eyes were made from coral and other stuffs. Local people believe those eyes can convey the divine power of their ancestors. Obviously, this pair of eyes were put up by modern people, but nonetheless, watching this huge pair of eyes looking down from the sky, one can't help but wonder whether there is another set of multiple sets of eyes from out of space watching billions years of changes on the earth. The next morning, we went to another crater called Ranu Cow, a very round crater full of aquatic plants on the bottom and surrounded by high hills. There is a trail through dense and tall plantations. The plants are more than one person's height. This island has no snakes and other vicious insects, so walking through those plants was safe and clean. It was actually quite fun. After these bushes, we came to Orongo. This is a place where many important events post the Moai era happened. On this island, I noticed in many places there is this special letter. This is the N with a little tail at the bottom. The local guide told me this is a unique pronunciation on the island. It should be pronounced as nga. It's a nasal sound, and in English pronunciation, sometimes it's written as ng. The most notable historical significance of this place is that this is the important venue of birdman culture. The birdman culture started in late 17th century, slightly before Europeans landed on this island. So the whole process was well documented by the Europeans. By the end of the 17th century, the Moai carving had fallen out of fashion. Maybe because of the interfight between tribes. Each tribe tried to topple the other tribes, moais. And there was no unified leader like a king over the whole island. The birdman culture is a process that's similar to an athletic competition to pick a winner among all the tribes. More specifically, every year each tribe sent a representative, typically a young man. They came to this place in Orongo and they descend from shore at the same time, then swim to the small island off the coast. There they would pick up the egg from a special kind of bird called the sooty tern and brought them back. The first man who brought back the egg intact, his tribe leader became the birdman for 1 year. And during that 1 year, this birdman enjoyed the spiritual and political authority and privilege over the whole island. So you can say this is a relatively more democratic process. The cliff down to the ocean is very steep and high. So the whole process was quite challenging, both in physical and mental sense. We had a chance to ride a small boat around this island. This is where the birdman climbed to and looked for the bird. The wave was rough and the ride was bumpy. Of course, we didn't have to swim there, and we had no intention to rule the island. We did see some birds there. They were actually not sooty terns. They were boobies that we saw many in Galapagos. These structures were used during the competition. The observers, the tribe leaders, etc., stayed inside this structure and watched the whole process of competition from the opening. This is a rebuild. The original one was destroyed. By whom? The British. That was another important event that was associated with this place. In late 19th century, a group of British sailors came to this island. Their captain was Richard Powell. They came to this place, Orongo, and found two beautiful moai statues made from basalt, those hardest rocks on the island. They wanted to have one of the moai statues, and they pried it off. During this process, the structure underneath this moai was destroyed, and they took the moai through the crater Ranukau to their ship and brought it back to London. That is the moai that is currently on display at the British Museum. Obviously, it was taken without permission, so Chilean government and Rapa Nui residents are requesting returning of that statue. This is the little boat that we went out on, pretty small. At the harbor, we also saw some pufferfish and a sea turtle. So Rapa Nui has rich resources of marine lives. Their harbor view, moais are everywhere. At the hotel we stayed, they put a big branch of bananas. From the room window, you can see the coast scenery, very peaceful. The hotel prepared a special barbecue for us. They were digging it out from the ground. Local dancers performed Polynesian dances for guests. The scripts of Rapa Nui, Rongo Rongo, now can no longer be understood. A once glorious history has unfortunately lost, but what we can be sure of that has been inherited is the islanders' love of the life and the emotional connection among different peoples. Alright, thanks for watching. I will see you next time.